That nonsense. So we're live and on. So okay, great. So first off, we need to turn this off. Good. Okay.
Yeah, I drove up here today being intimidated by these great musicians on the radio. Like, God, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, don't be intimidated, Joe. Okay, here we go. We're here at Jazz Live San Diego with Joe Garrison. Joe, welcome to Jazz Live San Diego.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having us.
It's great to have you here. It was just about a year almost to the day
Almost.
that you were here. You're with the band Night People, and you were doing your thing here, and it's great to have you back.
Thank you. And you'll notice this band it's different. It's changed. It's evolved.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing that new mix of musicians, and let's talk a little bit about that, the evolution of Night People. You've added, in particular, you've added electronics, violin, and some other things. Are you writing specific music for some of these new musicians? How's that dynamic work when you're bringing in new musicians and new material?
Yeah. The way it works is if I like somebody, I ask them if they will play with me, and then I figure out what to do. I don't write for an ensemble. I like, if I know somebody, hey, you want to do this? And then all of a sudden, that's why the band's kind of keeps changing and growing. But like with Chris Warren, I'm writing a whole new book with Kamau Kenyatta was helping me out with editing and revising. And Chris is doing all the live electronics, and I'm actually writing sections in it where instead of him just like working with the soloist, actual whole sections with electronics.
So let's talk a little bit about Night People in general. You title Night People Jazz Music Without Boundaries. So what kind of boundaries have you encountered in music that you're trying to eliminate or subvert or just go around? What are some of those boundaries?
Well, I'll say it like this. Dizzy Gillespie, they asked him, like, what do you think of these new trumpet players? And he goes, it's all great because music is infinite. And it's our only boundaries are our minds. That's our boundaries. Our only limitations are our own that we put on ourselves.
And so are you attempting to kind of write music that stretches what we think about what music is? I see you're bringing in electronics, and a lot of people might not think of beyond kind of the avant-garde that electronics belong in jazz, or so is that kind of an illustration of that? Well,
we have to open our minds more than that. Mm. So yeah, I mean, this is the reason Chris Warren's working with this is because I like Chris. If he was a violin player or a trumpet player, we would have another trumpet player. But he's an electronics guy in what he brings. But like, if we think about what is music, it's so big that we can't be bothered with, like, if this is jazz or not. We can't be bothered with that. Mm-hmm. We are busy.
Yeah.
There's no time.
No time to worry about those, and no time to even worry about the boundaries. There are no boundaries.
Well, and that's the thing. If you start trying to, I got to break through boundaries, then you're involved in breaking boundaries.
Right, as opposed to making music.
Yeah, we just want to make music. That music without boundaries, that's publicity.
Good. Okay, good. Well, so we're actually even breaking down the boundaries of publicity here.
It's a traveling circus.
Excellent.
That's what it is.
So in Night People, then you had talked about Hector Berlioz. You talked about a lot of your influences, and they're varied and many, but you talked about Hector Berlioz, and the quote was, "The patron saint of anybody who writes music and produces it themselves."
Absolutely.
And so explain that to us, because that really is kind of one of the key things about Night People, is that this music is done by you. There's not a lot of outside people involved here, other than the big group of musicians.
Absolutely. Hector Berlioz and Harry Parch were the guys that if you start to get discouraged, you look to those guys to see how to keep going. Those guys never quit, and they got their brains beat out, and they never ever quit. They just kept going. Now Hector Berlioz wore out later on in his life, and there was this thing, he had an idea for a symphony. He goes, oh my God, if I write this symphony, then I'll have to pay a copyist, then I'll have to get an organ. Never mind, I'm not doing it. You know, he got to that point, but that's after he'd been doing it for decades, you know. But Hector Berlioz, I mean, if you think about what it took to copy all that music, you know, never mind writing it, he copied it himself at first. Then he got the band together, which was an orchestra in those days, and he never burned anybody. He never burned a person. He never did.
And when you talk about burning a person, like letting them go?
No,
or
he always paid his players.
Oh, okay.
He always paid his players.
Right. So the music then of Night People is expanding, and we're even hearing new music tonight. Can you tell us a little bit about the new music that you're debuting and playing tonight with the band?
Yeah. One is because Charlie Arbelize asked me to write a piece, and I liked it, and so we wrote it for him. We're kind of expanding the harmonic vocabulary in that one. Like I was just realizing today, like my chord symbols don't really do justice to what we actually wrote, because like the chords that you can't, when you start trying to jam that kind of chromatic stuff into like jazz chord, it gets real messy. Like you got both forms of the fourth, you know, and you got, you know, sharp nines and regular nines, you know, and then you have them in different registers. So I like to do that. That's a way to crank up dissonance, you know. And then the other one, I don't know where it came from. I just had this idea to write a piece that sounded like if a tourist went to Bali and heard gamelan music one time, and they went home and wrote gamelan music, that's what this piece is.
Excellent.
So I don't pretend to know anything about gamelan music.
Right. But it's that experience of hearing something and then putting it down on music, and being able to express it, and then that process of giving it to this band to
right. But see, that kind of music, they got their own thing, their own whole way of doing things, which I don't pretend to understand, so I don't try to.
Right. So let's talk about some other new music. The Book of Gratitude.
Oh,
That's something that that even myself reading about it, and I haven't heard the band do that music. I couldn't quite figure out. Is it a band? Is it music? What is the Book of Gratitude? Some of your latest work.
It's a standalone book. It's 6 movements. It's a suite of 6 charts for like chamber, flute, oboe, clarinet, soprano, saxophone, trumpet, flugelhorn, and trombone, and then like congas, you know, bass, piano, and drums, and then percussion.
And is it music that you're performing tonight, or are you
Sunday?
Sunday. So you'll be performing this. So you perform this kind of separately from in kind of a special show, as opposed from your regular night music repertoire. Yeah,
I got this thing like Society of Friends is my umbrella, and then Night People is like the large ensemble. Then Book of Gratitude is like a separate project, and then Kamau and I are working on The Mystic, which is another whole book. And I got a piece for a whole other book for violin and band.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Kamau and then also Gilbert Castellanos.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring in this question to you about performing your music. And it seemed like at one point you were hesitant to perform your music, and that you had the inspiration and were writing, but there was something that was keeping you from performing it. And it may just be the regular financial, the regular things. But what was preventing you? And you've actually said that Gilbert and Kamau really told you should be performing this. What was preventing you from performing your music a few years ago?
Well, I think I was lost musically, and I got used to being there in that place, being lost. And I mean, it wasn't a problem being lost. I was just like looking at other ways of writing music, you know, and so I also got discouraged. Yeah, to tell you the truth, I gave up. That's what happened, actually.
And when you say you gave up, it sounds like you were still exploring and writing, but that hump, which I think many people have, including myself, of putting it out there and getting it out there for other people to hear, and releasing those things. That's a hard thing to do, and I just wonder if you experienced that yourself.
Oh hell, it's nothing but that. Playing music these days, that's what it's all. It's really hard. It's really hard.
And is it? It's just kind of a personal thing of hey, what are people going to think of this? Or
no, we can't be bothered. Don't forget, we can't be.
We can't be bothered by that. But I understand that. But that's hard to do sometimes in practice, to not be bothered by what other people think of what you're doing. And
man, once you have Gilbert Castellanos and Kamal Kenyatta tell you it's time, you better go.
That it's time to.
You don't want them to tell you twice.
Excellent.
Gilbert called up and goes, "I hope you're sitting down because I just booked you Dizzy's."
And that kind of started this latest.
That's what started
this latest snowball of Night People and all this.
Because I was afraid of Gilbert, man. Who's going to say no to him? Like, no, man, I'm not going to do it. And then Kamal's like going, "You got to get this stuff played," you know.
So that was it was the time to do it. Well, let's go back then a little bit. You're a San Diegan, grew up in San Diego, and was raised here, and played lots of different instruments. I'm going to paraphrase real quick here to get to what I want to talk about. But you actually first found a home in rock and roll and what you've called glorious guitar feedback. So you were playing that music. But in around 1969, something changed that made you kind of stop and go, I need to do something different. I need to compose.
Yeah. What
was the thing that was going on at that point with you, Joe?
I'll tell you exactly what happened. A guy sat me down and goes, "You need to." First of all, my sister played classical music. She could have been a concert pianist, man. She was great, and I heard all that stuff. But this guy said, "You got to listen to this." And Beethoven String Quartet, Opus 132, the A minor, slow movement. Man, that changed my life. It did. It changed everything. It changed my whole. I said, "Okay, I got to learn it. I got to learn about harmony. I got to learn this stuff." And it changed it like that.
And that really kind of changed your direction.
Yeah.
And so then you went on, and because the reason I bring that up is because that is such a great inflection point for you, because one of the big things about hearing your music is the compositions and the complexity of the compositions, and it seems like it's at that point that you said, I need to go do that and start down that path and then explore all of those things. And you went to school, you got a master's in composition, and all of those things. And that seems like a really big thing, a big turning point for you. And
no, it was. I mean, it's like, okay, you really want to do this? You really want to do this? Okay, here's the people that did this before you. What do you got? What do you got?
Right, learning from the masters and then attempting to kind of bootstrap and build on top of that. So let's go a whole different direction. In your day job, you're a piano tuner.
Yes, I am.
So you hear a lot of different sounds, I would imagine, in tuning pianos. Do you get inspiration, or are there things that you hear that you then may incorporate into your music? Because you do deal a lot with dissonance and some very interesting things. Do you hear things in tuning pianos that may influence what you do?
That's funny. To me, tuning pianos is like looking at the stars through a telescope and focusing it, because you're hearing partials. You hear a note and they have partials which are high, and you tune them, and you hear them come together. It's like if you had a telescope and all of a sudden it went into focus. That's what happens. But I had the most amazing thing happen in a recording studio, where I was sitting in front of this piano, and I just played like one note. I mean, you'd think I'd have had this happen by now, but I was like, this is like being in outer space. To hear to hear this one note. I mean, this piano, if that's all anybody ever did, it was worth inventing the piano. Man, this is unbelievable. You know, listen to this. Ding. You know, oh my God, yeah.
Well, we are running a little bit out of time, so let's talk a little bit about the future. You mentioned that you're going to be playing Book of Gratitude coming up very soon.
Yeah.
Let's look a little bit past that. What are some of the things that you're going to be doing in the next 6 months?
Okay, well, Night People's going to be at Croce's in May. The Book of Gratitude's this Sunday at 98 Bottles. And after that, The Mystic. That's 7 charts for pretty much the same band as Book of Gratitude plus a French horn player and electronics. Then after that, I want to get the violin piece. And we got Nico Hueso wants to play Viola Pompasa, which is, it's like a viola and a violin in one instrument. And
where can folks find out more about Night People and connect up with you?
Thank you. nightpeoplejazz.com. We try to keep that current, and I'm on Facebook, Joe Garrison, or Joe Garrison and Night People. And please get on there and like us, and stay in touch, and come out and hear us. We really do appreciate it.
Well, Joe, it's an honor to have you back at Jazz Live San Diego. We hope we can kind of continue to do this to kind of track what you're doing with your music and going. But it's an honor to have you here at Jazz Live San Diego. Thank you for being with us.
It's our honor, man. It's our honor. All these many years, bless KSDS.
All right, there we go, and we're off here.